At a packed event, Keanu suddenly leaned in and placed a gentle kiss on Sandra's forehead, turning a normal photo op into an unexpectedly intimate moment. But it was Anna's stunned, wide-eyed reaction in the background that stole the show, sparking endless rumors, memes, and questions about what really happened between the trio that night. I always wondered what was really happening behind that one photo everyone kept sharing. So imagine this with me, like you're standing right beside me, close enough to hear the cameras and feel the heat of the lights on your face. The night started like any other big premiere, at least that's what I told myself while my hands shook around a camera I could barely afford. My name is Marco, and it was my first time on a major red carpet, squeezed between veteran photographers who knew exactly when to shout and when to stay quiet. I kept thinking about my mother watching all this from our tiny apartment on a flickering TV, telling her friends, "That's my son's first real job." Around me, people were laughing, posing, pretending they weren't exhausted. Under the bright lights, every smile looked perfect. Up close, you could see which ones were fighting not to fall apart. The first car pulled up and a wave of shouting rose over the barricades. Keanu stepped out, dressed in black, moving with that slow, careful calm that makes chaos bend around him. He paused before the cameras even started flashing, leaning down to help a security guard pick up a fallen earpiece, nodding like they'd known each other for years. No big performance, no grand gesture, just a quiet, "You okay?" that I caught on my mic. When he finally turned toward us, the crowd screamed his name, but his eyes were somewhere else for a second, like he was carrying a memory the rest of us couldn't see. I lifted my camera, and through the lens I noticed the smallest tremor in his hand as he adjusted his tie. Then Sandra appeared and the whole place changed color. She didn't just walk, she floated, laughing with the makeup artist still half hiding behind her, thanking the driver like he'd just done her a favor bigger than getting her there on time. She stopped for every fan who called her name, kneeling to hug a girl who stuttered so hard she could barely say, "Thank you." Sandra didn't rush her, didn't look over her shoulder once. She just held the girl's hands and said, "Take your time, I'm not going anywhere." Watching that, I felt my throat tighten, thinking of my mother's voice when I used to be too afraid to speak up in class. Sandra reached the photo line with a smile that looked effortless, but I saw her shoulders rise and fall in a deep breath, as if she was bracing for a storm only she could feel coming. Anna came next, a flash of nervous energy wrapped in elegance. The crowd shouted her name like a drumbeat, but I could see how many times she smoothed the front of her dress, how she checked the ground before every step as if she was afraid of tripping in front of the world. When a fan yelled something cruel from the back, something about never living up to the legends beside her, she flinched just for a second. Then she responded with a huge grin, blowing a kiss toward the blur of faces, turning an insult into a joke. The cameras loved it. What they didn't catch was the way her smile faded in the half-second after she turned away, the way her fingers pressed into the edge of her clutch so hard her knuckles went white. The red carpet became a kind of battlefield made of light. Publicists waved clipboards like shields, reporters lunged with microphones like weapons, and we photographers fired bursts of flashes into their eyes. A fan pushed too hard against the metal barrier, tipping it forward with a screech that cut through the music. Before security could react, Keanu was already there, hand out, steadying the shaking rail and the teenage boy clinging to it. "You okay, buddy?" he asked, eyes level with the kids instead of the paparazzi's lenses. Sandra stepped in beside him, joking, "We're not worth getting injured for, I promise." And Anna turned to the boy's terrified mother and said, "Breathe, he's fine, look at him, he's a superhero now." In that moment, I realized how different real kindness looks in person compared to the way magazines talk about it. It's quieter, smaller, but it hits harder. Finally, a publicist herded them together in front of us, calling out, "Group shot, please, just the three of you." They moved into position like they'd done it 1,000 times, but something about their faces told a different story. Keanu stood in the middle, jaw tight, eyes softer than they looked on posters. Sandra took her place at his side, her hand brushing his arm for just a moment longer than the cameras needed. Anna lined up on the other side, still smiling for us but stealing quick glances at the two of them like she was trying to solve a puzzle with no edges. The crowd roared. My camera beeped, ready to shoot. And then in the space between one flash and the next, everything changed. Without warning, Keanu turned his head and leaned down, pressing a gentle, almost protective kiss onto Sandra's forehead. Her eyes fell closed, and for a heartbeat her smile disappeared, replaced by something raw and unguarded. Relief or pain or both, I couldn't tell. To his other side, Anna froze. Her mouth opened in pure shock, her eyes wide, not with jealousy, but with the kind of recognition you get when you suddenly understand a truth you weren't supposed to see. Behind them, someone yelled, the barrier groaned again, my thumb hit the shutter, and the world exploded in white light. I captured the exact second his lips touched her skin, her eyes closed, and Anna's world tilted. And I had no idea that this single photo would drag all four of us into a storm that would test our courage, our kindness, and the way we understood love itself. The photo that wouldn't sit still. Cameras were still firing when the metal barrier lurched forward a second time. The screech of metal on concrete sliced through the shouts, and a wave of bodies tipped toward the red carpet. For a heartbeat, the whole world leaned. I heard someone scream, saw a phone fly out of a hand and spin in the air like a coin. Instinct pulled my camera down. My feet moved before my brain did. Security rushed in, but Keanu was again the first one to reach the rail, bracing it with both hands. Sandra turned, holding her dress up so she wouldn't trip, calling out, "Back, back, you're gonna get hurt." Anna grabbed the arm of a woman who was losing her balance and yanked her upright with surprising strength. The woman's heel snapped, but she laughed, breathless, clutching her chest. "I almost died for a selfie," she gasped, and Anna shook her head, smiling. "Next time, just DM me, it's safer." In all that noise, I felt something different, like the air itself had shifted. The kiss, Anna's shocked face, the near accident, it all blurred into one long, dizzy second. My camera was still warm in my hand. I stepped back to the narrow space by the wall and hit the playback button with a trembling thumb. There it was on the tiny screen. Keanu's lips on Sandra's forehead, her eyes closed, peaceful but heavy, and Anna in the background, mouth open, eyes wide with something that looked bigger than surprise. The lighting was perfect, the focus razor sharp. The moment looked scripted by the universe. For a second, I forgot to breathe. "Let me see," the older photographer next to me said, leaning in without waiting for permission. He squinted, then let out a low whistle. "Kid, that's money. That's front page on every site in the morning." Another one craned his neck for a look, and soon three of them were huddled around my tiny screen, groaning with half-joking jealousy. "You just got your rent paid for a year," one of them muttered. I thought of our cracked ceiling at home, the red letters on unpaid bills, my mother pretending her cough wasn't getting worse. My heart hammered so hard it almost drowned out the roar of the crowd. Inside the theater entrance, the actors were being pulled away. A publicist with a headset waved frantically. "We're late, we have to move." Keanu gave one last wave to the fans, Sandra pressed her hand over her heart in thanks, and Anna turned back for a final look at the barrier, checking that the fans were safe. Her face was calm again, but I couldn't unsee that raw expression from a minute before. I wondered what had flashed through her head in that second. Jealousy? Fear? Memories? I had no idea, but I knew every gossip site on Earth would make up their own answer. As the red carpet began to thin out, a woman in sharp heels and sharper eyeliner appeared at my elbow. She wasn't a photographer, I could tell by the way she looked at people instead of lenses. "You're Marco, right?" she asked, reading my name off the cheap press badge hanging crooked on my chest. "I'm Lena, I run night shift online." I'd heard of them, rumors, scandals, millions of clicks. She smiled like we were already old friends. "I saw you got something special. I can move that picture to the top of the internet in an hour. Exclusive rights, premium fee. You won't have to scrape for carpet access ever again." The number she whispered might as well have been a foreign language, too many zeros for my brain to accept. My fingers tightened around the camera. "You haven't even seen the full resolution," I said, surprised by the edge in my own voice. She shrugged. "I don't need pixels, I need stories, and that one?" She pointed with her chin at my camera. "That's a story no one will stop talking about." She slipped a card into my hand. "Email it before midnight, we'll take care of the rest." On my way out, my phone buzzed with a voice message from my mother. She sounded tired but proud. "I stayed up to watch the arrivals," she said between soft coughs. "I didn't see you, but I know you were there. I'm so proud, Mijo. Don't worry about the electricity bill, we'll manage." I stared at Lena's card, her promise echoing in my head. One photo, one click, and my mother wouldn't have to manage anything for a long time. I found a quiet corner near the service exit and pulled out my laptop. My hands shook as I slid the memory card in. On the screen, the photo came to life in full size, every tiny detail clear, the faint shine of tears in Sandra's eyes, the way Keanu's jaw clenched like he was holding back something heavy, the exact moment Anna's mask slipped. Behind them, a fan's hand reached out from the blur, fingers stretched toward them like a plea. It was beautiful. It was dangerous. My email client opened. Lena's address waited in the to field. I attached the file, the progress bar crawling across the screen like a slow, inevitable choice. I told myself it was just work, that if I didn't sell it, someone else would replace me tomorrow, that this was how you survived. When the bar hit 100%, I clicked send. The laptop made a soft whoosh sound that felt in my chest like a door slamming shut. I packed up, stepped out into the cool night, and by the time I reached the subway station, my phone buzzed again. A notification from night shift. Breaking, the kiss that changes everything, see the photo everyone is talking about. My picture filled the screen. Under it, in bold letters, a question: secret love, silent rivalry, or something much darker? For the first time that night, the thrill of success disappeared, and all that was left was a cold knot of dread in my stomach. When a moment becomes a weapon. Morning came in pieces, light through broken blinds, the rattle of an old bus outside, the smell of burnt toast from the neighbor's kitchen. My phone wouldn't stop vibrating on the mattress beside me. I reached for it with one eye open, expecting maybe a couple of messages from my editor. Instead, the screen flooded with notifications stacked on top of each other like falling bricks. Congrats, bro, you're everywhere. Dude, is this your shot? Call me now, Javier Agency. Unknown numbers, emails, mentions. My name tagged beneath the same picture over and over. I sat up too fast, the room spinning for a moment as I tried to process the avalanche. I opened one of the links. My photo sat at the top of a huge homepage like a crown. Keanu's kiss, Sandra's closed eyes, Anna's shocked face. Only now there were words burned across it in giant letters. Caught on camera, the moment that broke Ana de Armas' heart. Underneath, someone had drawn a red circle around Anna's expression like they were solving a crime. I scrolled down, skimming a sea of speculation. The writer quoted anonymous sources, invented secret affairs, hinted at jealousy and betrayal. They mentioned my name once, captured by up-and-coming photographer Marco Ruiz. Then they moved on, chewing on the three faces that weren't theirs. On social media, it was worse. Edits, memes, jokes someone had clearly made in seconds, but that would live forever. People froze Anna's open mouth and pasted it onto cartoon bodies, onto gifs of explosions, onto screenshots of old interviews where she was laughing for a completely different reason. Some users called her dramatic, others called her pathetic. Some claimed she finally realized she could never compete. Thousands of people who had never met her, never heard her speak a full sentence, decided what she must be feeling in that one split second. I watched the retweet count climb like a heart monitor gone wild. Part of me glowed with a sick, buzzing pride. I'd made something the world couldn't ignore. Another part of me felt like I'd just thrown a match into a dry forest and walked away. At noon, my mother's call came. "Mijo, they showed your photo on TV," she said, voice shaking with happiness. "They even said your name. I told the nurse, that's my son, the artist." She coughed, and I imagined the hospital's faded walls, the cheap curtain that never fully closed. "They must have paid you well for that picture, yes." I hesitated, staring at the ceiling's cracked paint. "Yeah, Mama," I said softly. They did." She laughed, relieved. "Then good, you deserve it. Just remember, your father always said, fame is loud, but conscience is louder." She hung up before I could answer. Across the city, on the 32nd floor of a luxury hotel, Anna sat in a robe by the window, phone in hand, legs pulled up to her chest. Her publicist paced in front of the mirror, talking fast. "This is not a crisis. It's engagement. Your name is trending in 20 countries. We can spin this. We lean into it, make a joke on a late-night show, post a behind-the-scenes video. People love self-aware." Anna only half heard her. Her thumb scrolled through comments. A girl from her home country writing, "Why do you always look like the extra in someone else's movie?" A stranger posting, "The face you make when you realize your co-stars have real chemistry and you're just there." One message made her stomach twist. "You'll always be the girl who watches other people get chosen." Her publicist snapped her fingers. "Anna, focus, this is good for you." Anna looked up, eyes glossy but steady. Is it good, she asked quietly, if a million people are laughing at a version of me that isn't real? The publicist opened her mouth, then closed it. It will pass, she said instead. Everything passes. But Anna knew better. The internet never really let go. It just waited for the next thing to chew on. Back downtown, my email pinged with a new message marked urgent from night shift. They wanted more, higher resolution, unreleased angles, any shot that could support the narrative. Another outlet offered me double what I'd already been paid if I signed an exclusive contract. You're the man of the hour, Marco, Javier from the agency said over the phone. I can get you gear, jobs, access, everything. Just keep feeding the machine. They love you right now. Feeding the machine. The phrase made me picture a mouth with no bottom, swallowing faces and feelings and spitting out headlines. I opened the folder of photos from the premiere. There, right after the famous shot, were the frames no one had seen. One where a split second later, Sandra opened her eyes, laughing as Anna reached across Keanu to squeeze her hand. Another where Keanu whispered something that made both women roll their eyes and smile like younger versions of themselves. In those shots, there was no triangle, no rivalry. Just three tired people sharing a private joke under unbearable lights. The cursor hovered over those files. Send them and the drama might calm down, hold them back and the mystery would keep paying my rent. I told myself it wasn't my job to correct the internet. I was just a witness, a button pusher, an observer. But the longer I stared at Anna's laughing face in the unseen shot, the more it felt like I was holding someone else's truth hostage. Then my phone buzzed with a new notification, not from a media outlet or a contact. It was a direct message on my smallest, almost forgotten social account. The profile had no photo, just a simple letter A. The message was short. You took that picture, right? The one of the kiss. Please call me if you have a minute. I need to ask you something. A. My throat went dry. I checked the profile again. No posts, no friends, no verification badge. It could have been anyone, a troll, a fake, or the woman the whole world had decided to turn into a punchline overnight. My finger hovered over the call button, my heart pounding so hard my chest ached. I knew that if it really was her, nothing I said would be simple. Nothing I'd done would be easy to explain. I closed my eyes, took a long breath, and pressed call. The line rang once, twice, 3 times. A click. Then a quiet, tired voice I recognized from interviews but had never heard this close said, "Hi, is this Marco? This is Anna." Choosing which story to tell. The cafe Anna picked was hidden on a side street, the kind of place where the chairs didn't match and the barista knew every regular by name. No posters of the movie, no paparazzi outside. Just the soft hiss of the espresso machine and old jazz playing low from a dusty speaker. I got there 20 minutes early and still felt late. My hands wouldn't stop fiddling with the strap of my camera bag. When she finally walked in, there was no bright red carpet glow about her. No perfect makeup, no styled hair. Just a black hoodie, loose jeans, and a face that looked smaller without all the lights, more human. She hesitated at the door, scanning the room until her eyes landed on me. For a heartbeat, we both just stared, two strangers tied together by a single frame of borrowed light. "You're taller than I thought," she said as she reached the table, voice soft but carrying a faint humor. I stood up too quickly and almost knocked over my chair. "You're, exactly the height I thought," I answered, instantly regretting how stupid that sounded. She let out a short laugh and shook my hand. Her grip was firm, not delicate like I'd imagined. "Relax, Marco," she said. "I'm not here to sue you." We ordered coffee. She wrapped both hands around her cup like she needed the warmth. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. The weight of everything unsaid pressed down between us. Finally, she met my eyes. "You took that picture," she said, not accusing, just stating a fact. I nodded. "Yeah, I did." She studied my face, as if searching for an answer to a question she hadn't formed yet. "I don't hate you," she started, surprising me. "I know you were working, I know how this game works." She took a breath. "But I need you to understand what it feels like when the worst version of your face becomes who you are to millions of people who don't know your voice, your story, your anything." Her eyes glistened, but she didn't look away. "They think I'm jealous. They think I'm angry. Some say I finally realized I'm not the lead." It's like they all agreed on a script I never read. Guilt rose in my throat like acid. "I didn't write the articles," I said weakly. She cut in, gentle but firm. "You lit the first match." The words were not cruel, just honest. "But I came because I saw your other work." She tapped her phone, pulling up a small portfolio site I'd barely updated. candid shots of nurses dancing during night shifts, kids playing soccer in a flooded alley, a man fixing his neighbor's window for free after a storm. "You don't usually chase drama," she said. "You look for people trying to be kind in hard places. That's why I thought maybe you'd understand I am not what that 1 second makes me look like." My chest tightened. "There are more pictures," I blurted. "From that night, after the kiss, you all laughing, talking, it wasn't—" I stopped, watching her face carefully. She leaned forward. "Show me." I opened my laptop and turned it toward her. One by one, I clicked through the sequence. The famous frame first, impossible now for either of us to see without feeling all the noise attached to it. Then the next one where her shock softened as Sandra opened her eyes. The next, with Keanu saying something, I still didn't know what, that made both women smile. The one after, where Anna reached out, placing her hand on Sandra's shoulder like an anchor. In that still their eyes met, full of something tender, shared, unspoken. Anna watched in silence, her face unreadable. When I reached the final frame of the series, she lifted a finger. "Stop!" It was the shot I'd barely noticed before. Keanu looking down, eyes shining with something like grief, Sandra's face turned just slightly away from the cameras, her jaw tight, and Anna between them, gaze lowered, lips pressed together as if she was holding back words. No one was performing for us in that one. They were just three tired people with a shared ache. "That day," she began quietly, fingertips resting on the edge of the screen, "was the anniversary," she swallowed, "of Lewis's accident, our stunt coordinator. He died during a test run on another project, but he worked with both of them for years. They dedicated this film to him, but the studio didn't want to cloud the mood on premiere night by talking about it." Her voice roughened. "He was the first person who told me I wasn't crazy to leave home and try this. He taught me how to fall without breaking my bones." I sat back, the room suddenly too small. "I didn't know," I said stupidly. "Of course I didn't know. None of the headlines cared enough to mention it." "No one did," she replied, "except us and a handful of crew." She looked back at the photo. Sandra was already shaking when we stepped onto the carpet. Keanu kept cracking dumb jokes to keep her from crying. I thought she was going to lose it in front of the cameras. When he kissed her forehead, it was— she searched for the words. "It was a promise, like, I've got you, we'll get through this." I was shocked because I realized he was breaking his own rule. "What rule?" I asked. Anna's smile was sad. "He hates using real pain as a performance. He always says, some memories are not for sale." That kiss was real, pure, and it happened in front of the loudest market in the world. She pointed at my famous shot. "Now that moment, that comfort, that grief is being sold as some cheap triangle." Silence settled between us. The jazz track changed. The barista laughed at a joke in the back. Outside, life went on like it always does when your world is quietly falling apart. "The studio wants us to play along," Anna said after a moment, bitterness creeping into her tone. "They say it's great organic publicity. They want an exclusive sit-down where I joke about being the third wheel, where they tease a fake love story just enough to make people buy more tickets. They said I should be grateful people care this much." She shook her head. "I don't want to be grateful for being misunderstood." She looked up at me, eyes burning now with something stronger than hurt, determination. "You have the only proof that this story isn't what they're selling. Those other photos, they show the truth, that we were holding each other together, not tearing each other apart." Her fingers tapped the table once steady. "If we put them out, if we tell the real story, the gossip sites will be furious. The studio will be annoyed. You might lose jobs. I might be called difficult. But at least we won't be part of the lie." I thought of my mother's bills already partly paid, the emails promising more money if I kept the mystery alive, the access I'd never had before suddenly within reach. I also thought of that nurse dancing in the hospital hallway, of the neighbor fixing someone else's window in my old neighborhood. The photos that mattered most to me had never been the ones that screamed the loudest. They were the quiet ones that told the truth. "If I release those shots," I said slowly, "I'll probably never work with sites like Night Shift again." I met her gaze. "You might never be offered another fun viral campaign by the studios. Are you sure?" She held my eye without flinching. "We're already paying a price for something that isn't even real," she said. "I'd rather pay for something I actually believe in." Her phone buzzed on the table. The name Sandra lit up the screen. Anna blew out a breath, almost a laugh. "She keeps worrying about me more than herself," she murmured. Then she looked back at me. "Answer this with me." Before I could respond, she swiped to accept and hit the speaker button. Sandra's voice came through, warm but strained. Me, Amber, are you with him? The photographer? Anna glanced at me and nodded, even though Sandra couldn't see. Yeah, he's here, she said. You're on speaker. There was a brief pause on the other end of the line, a soft exhale that sounded like someone gathering courage. Then Sandra spoke again, her tone low and serious. Good, because we have to decide right now how much of our hearts we're willing to show the world and how much we're going to protect. And if we get this wrong, it won't just be our careers on the line.